Every night at precisely 2:13 a.m., a woman appears on Blackstone Bridge. She cries softly, her back turned to the road, draped in white. But when you approach, she turns, and there is no face. Blackstone Bridge had always been a quiet place, surrounded by thick woods and the distant gurgle of Blackstone Creek. Most locals avoided it after dark, not because of danger, but because of something much older, something they couldn't quite explain. Logan Carter wasn't a local. He was a freelance journalist who'd made a name for himself, investigating so-called urban legends. When he stumbled across a Reddit thread talking about the woman on Blackstone Bridge, his instincts flared. Every post shared the same eerie detail. A woman in white crying alone on the bridge at 2:13 a.m., vanishing without a trace, sometimes after someone tried to speak to her. But what hooked him was the consistency of the reports. Dozens of people, years apart, describing the same thing. Long black hair, a pale dress, soft weeping, and no face. Logan arrived in the town of Briar Glen just before sunset. The air smelled of wet leaves and smoke. He checked into a small motel and told the clerk he was in town for photography. No need to alert the locals to his true intentions just yet. At 1:30 a.m., with his camera slung over his shoulder and a flashlight clipped to his belt, Logan parked his car at the edge of Blackstone Forest and began walking the mile-long trail to the bridge. The forest was dense and eerily quiet, muffling even the sound of his footsteps. As he approached the bridge, his breath caught in his throat. There, right in the center, stood the woman. She was exactly as described. Slender, still, hair like a dark curtain, her hands clutched the railing, her shoulders trembling softly. Logan felt a chill creep down his spine. He raised his camera, heart pounding, and began filming. "Ma'am," he called, voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. No response. He stepped closer. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" She didn't move. He took another step, then another. Finally, she turned. There was nothing where her face should have been. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just smooth, pale skin stretched across an empty canvas. Logan froze, paralyzed. The woman took a step toward him, and then vanished. The bridge was empty. Wind howled through the trees, colder than before. Logan stumbled back, camera still recording, heart racing. He didn't stop running until he reached his car. Back at the motel, Logan reviewed the footage. She was there, the crying, the dress, the turn. But the moment she should have revealed her faceless horror, the screen glitched, static, then blackness. Every time. Logan didn't sleep. The next morning, he began asking questions. Locals grew uneasy when he mentioned the bridge. Some laughed it off. Others warned him to leave it alone. One older man, a retired teacher named Henry Sloan, offered a different reaction. "You saw her, didn't you?" he asked quietly. Logan hesitated, then nodded. "She's been there for decades, maybe longer. My grandfather used to tell stories about her. Said she was a warning." "A warning of what?" Henry looked out the window, as if afraid of being overheard. "Some people say she was a bride left at the altar. Others say she jumped to her death after her child drowned in the creek. But my grandfather, he said she wasn't human anymore. Not really. Said if you look at her long enough, she remembers you, follows you." Logan felt a chill. "She's part of the bridge now," Henry added. and she doesn't like being watched. That night, Logan returned to the bridge, but this time, he brought more than a camera. Logan Carter returned to Blackstone Bridge the following night, armed with more than just a camera. He had brought a compact audio recorder, an EMF detector, and a friend, Riley Monroe, a local videographer who had experience documenting paranormal phenomena. "You sure about this?" Riley asked as they walked the dark trail toward the bridge. Logan nodded. "I saw her, Riley. I got it on video, except the footage cut out. There's something on that bridge, and I'm going to figure out what it is." The forest felt heavier that night. The wind was still, the branches motionless. Even the usual chirping of crickets had fallen silent. When they reached the bridge, Riley stopped in his tracks. "It's colder here," he whispered. Logan stepped forward and placed the EMF detector on the ground. The lights flickered erratically. "Something's interfering." They set up a tripod and aimed the camera toward the middle of the bridge. Logan activated the audio recorder and placed it near the railing where the woman had stood the night before. Then they waited. A.M. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint gurgle of Blackstone Creek below. 10 a.m. Riley fidgeted, his breath visible in the cold air. "Nothing's happening." "Give it a minute," Logan said. Then, at exactly 2:13, the air shifted. A soft crying began, faint, sorrowful, like someone grieving alone. She appeared. Just as before, the woman stood in the center of the bridge, her back to them. Her dress flowed lightly, though there was no breeze. Her shoulders trembled with quiet sobs. Riley's mouth dropped open. "She's real." "Stay back," Logan warned, turning on the camera. "Don't approach her." They watched as the woman continued to cry, unmoving. Logan slowly lifted the audio recorder closer, hoping to catch the sound clearly. As he did, the EMF detector spiked, its lights flashing red. The woman stopped crying. She turned slowly. Again, there was no face, just smooth, pale skin. Logan felt ice run through his veins. But this time, she did not vanish. She stepped toward them. Riley stumbled backward. "Logan, I see her," Logan whispered. The figure took another step, then another, her head tilted slightly, as if listening. And then, she disappeared, vanishing in a blink, like a puff of mist swept away by wind. Riley was shaking. "I'm done. This is too much." "Wait," Logan said, grabbing the audio recorder. "Let's listen." They played back the tape. Static. Then the soft sound of weeping. Then a whisper. "Logan." Both men froze. The whisper was faint, but unmistakable. It had said Logan's name. Riley's face drained of color. "How does she know your name?" Logan didn't answer. He couldn't, because deep down he didn't believe this was just some spirit tied to a bridge anymore. This was something more intelligent, aware. Back at the motel, Logan played the recording again, this time wearing headphones. He slowed the audio down, isolating each whisper. There wasn't just one. There were several voices, some saying his name, others whispering in a language he couldn't identify. The more he listened, the more the voices seemed to multiply, overlapping in eerie, breathless tones. One voice stood out. "She sees you now. Logan pulled off the headphones. His heart was racing. Was the entity now aware of him? He began digging deeper. Over the next 2 days, he researched every record, newspaper clipping, and online thread about the bridge and the woman. What he found painted a disturbing picture. Blackstone Bridge was built in 1907 after a fire destroyed the original wooden structure. But before that, the creek had been the site of several unexplained drownings dating back to the 1800s. Children, hikers, even entire families, gone without a trace, or found days later in the water, their faces described as blank or unrecognizable. Local legend blamed a spirit, a woman who had lost her child in the creek and drowned herself in despair. But Logan found no official record of such a woman until he found the Briar Glen Sanatorium. It had been closed since the 1950s, but in its archived patient list, Logan found her, Eliza May Harrow, admitted in 1922 after allegedly attempting to drown her infant child in Blackstone Creek. She had claimed voices told her to do it, that the water would take her pain away. She was later found wandering the bridge, soaked, crying, and repeating the phrase. He took his face with him. Logan leaned back in his chair. Eliza May Harrow. Could she be the woman on the bridge? And what did she mean? He took his face. The next night, Logan returned alone. Riley had refused to come back. He said he was having nightmares, visions of the woman standing in his room, watching him. Logan brought one new tool with him, a spirit box, a device used to communicate with entities by scanning through radio frequencies. He set it up in the center of the bridge, heart pounding, and turned it on. The static roared, skipping rapidly through channels. Is your name Eliza? Logan asked. Nothing. Are you the woman on the bridge? A pause, then, yes. Logan nearly dropped the device. Why are you here? More static. Then, he took face. Who is he? The static grew louder. Then the voice returned, whispering. He's still watching. The temperature dropped sharply. Logan's breath came out in thick clouds. The hairs on his arms rose. Behind him, the soft crying began again. He turned, and there she was. But this time, she wasn't alone. Another figure stood behind her, tall, dark, motionless, a shadow without shape. Logan couldn't see its face. The woman turned toward him slowly, where her face should have been. The skin began to ripple. Something moved beneath it, pressing outward. Logan backed away, chest tightening. The woman raised a hand, pointing to him. Then everything went black. Logan awoke on the forest floor just beyond the bridge, his head pounding and his limbs trembling. It was still dark, and the chill in the air hadn't lifted. He couldn't remember blacking out, only that strange figure behind the faceless woman, the feeling of being watched, and the moment everything went completely still, like the world had paused. His equipment was scattered. The spirit box was still running but silent. The camera's battery had drained despite being fully charged before he arrived. His flashlight flickered weakly in his hand. Logan sat up slowly, trying to steady his breathing. What had he seen last night? He retrieved the spirit box, shut it off, and gathered the rest of his gear. As he walked away from the bridge, one thought echoed in his mind. He's still watching. Back at the motel, Logan uploaded what little footage remained. The video was mostly static, but there was one clear frame. A single still image of the woman pointing directly at the camera. No face, just a pale hand stretched forward in eerie silence. That image alone chilled Logan more than anything else. He knew he had to go deeper. The next logical step was the Briar Glen Sanatorium, the place where Eliza May Harrow had been committed a century ago. The building had been abandoned for decades, but Logan managed to contact a local historian who agreed to grant access to some of the sanatorium's surviving records. The historian, Margaret Ellis, met him in the basement archives of the Blackstone Historical Society. She was a petite woman in her 60s, wearing thick glasses and a shawl draped over her shoulders. "You're the one asking about Eliza Harrow," she said, flipping through a dusty folder. "Strange case. Most folks have forgotten her." "I think she's the woman on the bridge," Logan replied. "She was found crying there in 1922 after an incident." Margaret nodded solemnly. "Yes. The infant was never recovered. Police searched the creek for days. They found Eliza talking to herself, soaking wet, eyes wide like she'd seen something no one else could." She handed Logan a faded medical file. Inside was a handwritten evaluation. Patient exhibits signs of deep psychological trauma. Claims the water speaks to her. References a man with no face who lives beneath the bridge. Recommends isolation and continuous observation. Logan's eyes narrowed at the phrase. "A man with no face." Margaret adjusted her glasses. There were several entries like that. She believed something lived in the water, something that took her child. She said he swallowed the baby's face. The doctors labeled it as a delusion. Logan frowned. And the bridge? Was there anything about it? Only her insistence that it was a threshold, a place between the living and something else. He took photos of the documents and thanked Margaret for her help. But as he walked out of the building, he couldn't shake the words. A place between the living and something else. That night, Logan posted a video update to his growing audience online. The title, "The Bridge Spirit Has a Name, Eliza Harrow." In the video, he showed the sanatorium records and shared the eerie image of the woman pointing toward the camera. Thousands of views poured in overnight. Comments flooded the screen. "This is beyond anything I've seen. What if the thing behind her is what really haunts the bridge? She's warning you, Logan, not threatening you." One comment stood out. "Check the creek bed. There's something buried there." It had no username, just a blank profile picture. Logan read it twice. Check the creek bed. He couldn't ignore it. The next evening, armed with a shovel and a waterproof headlamp, Logan returned to the base of Blackstone Bridge. The water was low due to recent droughts, and part of the creek bed was exposed. He began digging near one of the large stones under the bridge. After almost an hour, his shovel struck something solid. He knelt down and brushed the dirt away. A small, rusted box. He lifted it gently from the soil. It was sealed tight, but the lock had long since corroded. Logan opened it slowly. Inside, wrapped in a decayed cloth, was a child's rattle. Old, wooden, carved with a strange pattern. Spirals and lines that didn't resemble any known symbol. But that wasn't all. There was also a photograph. A woman holding a baby. Logan recognized her immediately. It was Eliza, He turned the photo over. In shaky handwriting it read, "He took him. He's watching from the dark. He feeds on faces." Logan's hands trembled. That's when he heard the water behind him ripple. He turned sharply. The creek was empty, but the sound had been clear. Something had moved. A voice echoed, barely audible. "Give it back." Logan looked around, heart thudding. "Who's there?" he called. Silence. Then, the same whisper again, closer this time. "Give him back." The creek began to bubble, though no source was visible. The water churned in one spot, like something was beneath it. Logan backed away, clutching the photo and the box. Whatever was here didn't want him to find this. The moment he stepped back onto the bank, the bubbling stopped. The water stilled, but the silence that followed felt wrong. Too quiet. No frogs, no wind, no movement. He felt eyes on him again. Logan didn't wait. He ran back to the motel, locked the door, and placed the box on the table. He stared at it for a long time, unsure of what he had uncovered. Was the spirit of Eliza Harrow trying to lead him to the truth? Or was he falling into something far older and far more dangerous? All he knew was this: the woman on the bridge wasn't the one to fear. It was the thing behind her. And now, it knew Logan had something it wanted. Logan didn't sleep that night. The rusted box sat on the motel table, its contents still laid out. The strange rattle, the old photograph, and that chilling message. He took him. He's watching from the dark. He feeds on faces. He kept the motel lights on, the curtains closed, and every shadow under surveillance. But it didn't help. Something had followed him back. He could feel it in the room, just beyond the edge of vision, a faint presence, cold, still, watching. By morning, Logan had made a decision. He had to return to the bridge one final time, not to provoke, not to investigate, but to understand. If Eliza's spirit was reaching out, then maybe there was still a way to help her, and possibly free the child she had lost. But there was one thing he needed first: answers. Before heading back to the bridge, Logan visited Margaret Ellis again, the historian. This time, he brought the photograph and the rattle. Margaret's eyes widened as she examined them. This rattle, it's carved in an old protective pattern. Wards, actually. These spirals, Celtic in origin, they were believed to protect infants from spirits. Or something worse. Like what? Logan asked. She looked up slowly. There were old legends. Before this town was founded, the land here was said to be cursed. Early settlers spoke of a faceless watcher who lived beneath the creek. They believed it fed on grief and faces. It only appeared when someone experienced deep sorrow or loss. Logan's pulse quickened. So, Eliza losing her child might have drawn it out. Margaret finished, and if she believed it had taken her child, maybe she wasn't wrong. Logan nodded grimly. There's something under that bridge. It showed itself. I didn't see a face, just a shape. Tall, dark, and hollow, like it wasn't fully part of this world. Margaret hesitated, then handed him an old map. There are tunnels beneath the bridge, part of the original foundation. They were sealed off decades ago, but if the creature is real, it could be hiding there. Logan knew what he had to do. That afternoon, He returned to the bridge with climbing gear, headlamps, and a waterproof camera. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the trees. The creek was quieter than usual. Too quiet. He found the crumbled edge of the old stone foundation near the far side of the bridge. Just behind a collapsed wall was a narrow opening, partially hidden by roots and ivy. It led into darkness through tunnel. Taking a deep breath, Logan turned on his camera and crawled inside. The air inside the tunnel was damp and heavy. Every sound echoed. The crunch of gravel under his hands, the distant dripping of water. The passage sloped downward, deeper into the earth. After about 10 minutes of crawling and climbing, he reached a wide underground chamber. It was completely silent. In the center of the chamber was a pool of black water. Its surface was still, unnaturally still. The reflection was off, like it didn't match the room. That's when he saw them. Faces, dozens of faint outlines just beneath the surface, blurred as if trapped in the water. Some were children, others were adults, all expressionless. Logan stepped back, breath catching in his throat. Then, from the far side of the chamber, something began to rise. It was tall, at least 7 feet, and featureless. Its skin was a pale gray, stretched tightly over a skeletal frame. Where a face should have been was only smooth flesh, blank, empty. The faceless man. He didn't walk. He floated, moving silently across the stone floor, gliding toward Logan like mist. But the spirit didn't attack. It stopped, hovering just above the pool, and slowly extended a long, thin arm, pointing to the box Logan carried. The rattle. Logan's hands shook as he reached into his bag and held it up. The spirit paused, then slowly backed away, as if uncertain. Logan took a step forward. "I'm not here to take anything," he said softly. "I think you already have. I just want to set it right." The water in the pool began to ripple gently. Suddenly, behind Logan, the sound of sobbing echoed through the tunnel. A woman's sobs. He turned around, and there she was, Eliza Harrow, standing at the entrance of the chamber, drenched, translucent, and weeping silently. She wasn't angry. She was heartbroken. Her eyes met Logan's, bleeding. Logan stepped aside and held out the rattle toward her. Eliza moved slowly, almost floating until she reached the pool. She looked into it and began to hum a soft lullaby. The water glowed faintly. The faceless spirit didn't move. Then, a small hand reached out from beneath the surface. A child. The image was faint, but clear. A little boy rising from the pool, his face visible, his features innocent and peaceful. Eliza reached for him, but her hand passed through his. She began to cry harder, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. Logan stepped forward. "He can't leave, can he?" The faceless spirit tilted its head slightly, almost in recognition. Logan understood. The spirit fed on grief, sorrow, pain, but it didn't create it. It found those who were broken and kept them. Eliza's spirit wasn't trapped. She had stayed by choice, out of guilt, out of hope. Logan took the rattle and placed it by the water's edge. "If you let them go," he said softly, "maybe you can rest too." The chamber fell silent again. Then, slowly, the spirit lowered itself back into the water and disappeared. The pool began to clear. The faces faded. Eliza looked down one last time, then turned toward Logan. She gave a slight nod, grateful but heartbroken, and vanished into mist. The tunnel grew colder, then still. It was over. Logan climbed out just as the first light of dawn broke over the trees. The air felt lighter, the silence no longer oppressive. Back at the motel, he reviewed the footage. The video showed everything. Eliza's appearance, the faceless spirit, the child in the water, but most importantly, it showed the moment they were freed. He titled the video, "The Bridge Spirit's Secret. She Wasn't the Monster." And as it went viral, one thing became clear to viewers around the world. The woman on the bridge had never been a warning. She had been a mother, searching for her child. 2 weeks had passed since Logan left Hollow Creek. The video he uploaded had taken the internet by storm. People from all over the world commented on the chilling but emotional footage. Some shared their own experiences with haunted places. Others spoke of mothers who had endured loss and how grief could transcend death itself. But for Logan, the views and attention meant little. What stayed with him were Eliza's eyes in those final moments, the way she looked at her child, the sorrow that filled the air around her, and the sense of peace that slowly settled once the faceless spirit had returned to the pool. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Despite what the spirit had done or fed on, Logan didn't believe it was purely evil. It was ancient, old as the earth, drawn to sorrow like a moth to flame. Maybe it had once been something else, before time twisted it into a mirror of human pain. Logan had captured something no one else had, a haunting that wasn't about fear alone, but about grief, memory, and letting go. He tried to move on, returning to other paranormal investigations, but nothing felt the same. One evening, Logan sat at his desk, reviewing older footage from Hollow Creek. He paused on a frame from the bridge the night he first saw the woman. He zoomed in on the background, trees, mist, the curve of the creek, and then something caught his eye. A figure, not Eliza. It was smaller, watching from a distance, just at the edge of the forest. The child, but it wasn't the ghostly boy from the pool. This figure looked different, slightly taller, wearing older clothes, blurred but standing, not trapped. Logan leaned forward. The timestamp was just before he'd seen the woman vanish. Had someone else been there? Curious, he returned to Hollow Creek once more. The town looked unchanged, quiet, misty. The bridge, now infamous due to his video, had been visited by curious travelers and ghost hunters alike. Some left flowers, others left toys. Most didn't stay past sunset. As Logan stood on the bridge again, he noticed something new. The air felt lighter, not as heavy or cold as before, and there were no sobs, no whispers, just silence and peace. He walked the length of the bridge, stopping in the middle, and looked down into the creek. The water was still, but not unnatural. It moved gently with the breeze. No faces beneath the surface, no ripples without cause. It was just a creek now. Logan exhaled and closed his eyes. "I hope you found him," he whispered. He turned to leave, but a soft sound stopped him. A child's laugh. He spun around. There, at the edge of the trees, stood a boy, clear as day, smiling, and next to him, Eliza. Her face was visible now, no longer blurred, no longer hollow. She looked at Logan, her expression calm and full of gratitude. The boy held her hand, looking up at her with bright eyes. Then, in an instant, they faded into the wind like morning mist touched by sunlight. Logan didn't chase. He didn't need to. He understood now. Some stories don't end in terror or tragedy. Some are about finding closure, even in the afterlife. Back in town, Logan visited the library one last time. He handed Margaret the original photo and the rattle. "These belong to this town," he said. "Not to me." Margaret smiled gently. "You gave them peace, Logan. That's more than anyone else ever did." As he left the library, he noticed something near the church. A small plaque had been placed beside an old oak tree, freshly carved. It read, "In memory of Eliza Harrow and her son Thomas. May their love guide them home." Logan stood there for a long moment, letting the quiet wash over him. He knew there would always be new places to investigate, new stories, new shadows. But he also knew that not every haunting was a curse. Sometimes it was a cry for help. Sometimes it was love that refused to fade. And sometimes it was a mother who simply wanted to be seen. That night, Logan left Hollow Creek for the final time. As he drove away, he looked in the rearview mirror. No woman stood on the bridge, no figure in the mist. Just the road ahead, stretching into the unknown. But in his heart, something had changed. He wasn't just chasing ghosts anymore. He was listening to them.